And we are back. Welcome to what is quite possibly the single toughest video I will ever have to record on this channel. It is the Matchday 6 predictions for the Europa League and the Europa Conference League, where the state of the groups are in some situations very tight, in some of them are already wrapped up. So my job now is to try and dissect every single one of those matches within every single one of those groups to determine what sort of teams these sides are going to put out, so I can then try and give you accurate predictions. Now, obviously, I do not know off the top of my head, or I certainly don't remember off the top of my head, the state of all 16 groups. So I do have the group tables available for me on my phone. I have pre-made these predictions, so I can just give you all of the information you need so you can make your own predictions as well. Before we get into it, if you haven't done so already, please drop a like on this video if you do enjoy all of my prediction videos, and subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. We will, of course, be doing this all again tomorrow for the upcoming Premier League game week. Let's start off with all the action in tonight's Europa League matches. And we start with Group A, where the situation is like this. West Ham and Frankfurt are guaranteed to go through as the two group winners. Olympiacos sit 3 points ahead of Baka Topola for third and fourth. Now, as things stand, all Olympiacos have to do is avoid defeat, and they will be in the Europa Conference League playoff. For Baka Topola, they simply have to win. However, if they do win, they will leapfrog Olympiacos on countback because it was a draw in the reverse fixture. I am going to go for a 2-0 win for Olympiacos. It's just too much of an arse for Baka Topola. As much as I think it would be a great upset, I just don't see it happening. For West Ham and Freiburg, the situation is this. They are currently on the same points, but on countback, West Ham have the advantage, so all West Ham need to do is get the draw. The reason why it's so important when it comes to Europa League is because second place teams will play those third place teams dropping down from the Champions League. So winning the group is imperative when it comes to the Europa League. And obviously West Ham have had this massive illness scare over the last few days, so I don't think it's going to be easy. Freiburg, though, are not on the best of form themselves. I'm going to put it down the middle and go for a 1-1 draw, which will see West Ham topping the group. On to Group B, and we start off with Ajax and Athens, where the task for Ajax is to win, and they will get into the Europa Conference League. And for AEK Athens, they just have to avoid defeat. Now, on recent form, Ajax have been much, much better since the management change, and I'm backing them to get the win tonight. I'm going to go for a 3-1 win for them. For Marseille and Brighton, Marseille sit 1 point clear of Brighton. They are guaranteed to be the top two that go through. But again, on current form, I just don't really fancy Brighton in this one. They've not been great recently. Marseille have been very, very good in Ligue 1 over the last few weeks. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Marseille. Into Group C, and the first one that really has some tight ramifications. It's Real Betis 9, Rangers 8, Sparta 7, and Aris Limassol 4. We start off with Aris Limassol and Sparta Prague. To be honest with you, I just don't see this being anything really more than a Sparta win, and I'm going to put them winning, which will mean that as things stand, they then leapfrog Betis and Rangers into the top spot, which means that Betis and Rangers would both have to win to guarantee themselves a spot in the next round. And obviously Betis would have to win to top the group to avoid the Champions League opponents. I'm backing Betis to do that, and I'm going to go for a 2-0 win for them. On to Group D, and the situation in this group is that Rakow and Sturm Graz can only get into the Europa Conference League. They both currently sit on the same points. However, Atalanta and Sporting Lisbon are both guaranteed to finish first and second respectively because the countback has Atalanta with the advantage. For the first game, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw because I believe Atalanta will just rest all of their players ahead of big games coming up for them in Serie A. And for the other game, I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for Sporting Lisbon, which would see Rakow get the spot in the Europa Conference League playoffs. On to Group E, and we have Liverpool, Toulouse, Union Saint-Gilloise, and LASK. Another group which is near enough wrapped up already. LASK can still sneak into the Europa Conference League if they manage to beat Toulouse and the Union Saint-Gilloise lose to Liverpool. I, however, though, am going to go for a 0-0 draw for LASK and Toulouse because Toulouse are a very good side defensively and they only need a point to secure qualification to the play against the Champions League team coming down for them. As for Union Saint-Gilloise and Liverpool, ahead of the big game against Manchester United at Anfield, I think Liverpool will pretty much change their whole team and Union Saint-Gilloise will offer the opportunity to capitalise, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for Union in that one. In Group F, it really is two finals, to be honest with you. You got Panathinaikos taking on Maccabi Haifa in a playoff for the Europa Conference League spot. I am going to go for a 1-0 win to Panathinaikos. And for Rennes and Villarreal, Rennes sit 2 points ahead of Villarreal, so only have to avoid defeat against them. Both sides have not been playing very well recently, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Rennes, just because Villarreal lost 3-0 at home at the weekend. On to Group G, we have the situation whereby both sides at the top of the group are at home. Both sides will be looking to win, and I think both sides are going to win. I'm going to go for 3-0 to Roma and 2-1 to Slavia Prague, which will see Slavia Prague top that group. And then finally, for Group H, we have Leverkusen, Karabag, Molde and Hacken. Molde and Karabag are both on the same number of points. However, I think Bayer Leverkusen are still going to be too strong for Molde, whatever side they put out. And I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for them, which will leave the door open for Karabag to wrap up the group, secure themselves the spot in the next round. And I'm going for 2-0 to Karabag. That rounds up everything for the Europa League. Now let's go through everything for the Europa Conference League. And we start off once again with Group A. We start off with Lille up against Klasvik. And then we have Slavan Bratislava taking on Olympia. Again, both sides at the top need to win to secure top spot. And the two sides at the bottom aren't really playing for anything because there is no further playoff for them to go into. So with that said, I think both home sides are going to take the wins. I'm going to go for 2-0 for Lille, 2-0 for Slovan, which means they will go through. Lille with the group winners, Slovan to play the third place team from the Europa League. Into Group B, and we actually have a top of the table decider between Maccabi Tel Aviv and Ghent. Ghent just have to avoid defeat. Maccabi Tel Aviv have to win to avoid that Europa League playoff. I am going to go for a 2-1 win for Ghent. And then the other game, it's Zoya taking on Breidablik. Zoya on 4, Breidablik on 0. Neither side playing for anything because the group is already decided in terms of those two teams. I'm just going to go for a 3-0 win for Zoya. In Group C, Victoria Pilsen have already completely ran away with this group, which means it is very open between Dinamo Astana and Balkani for that spot to compete for the Europa Conference League playoff against the Europa League team coming down. I'm backing Dinamo Zagreb to get the win over Balkani, which means whatever happens in the other game, it doesn't really matter. However, I am still going to give the win to Astana because I just think, again, Pilsen have no reason to play any of their other players. Into Group D, we start off with Bruges taking on Bodo Glimt, where again, if Bodo Glimt get the win by a significant enough margin, they will have the head-to-head advantage over Club Bruges. However, at home, I expect the Belgian side to get the damage done. I'm going to go for 2-0 for them. And for Lugano and Besiktas, again, they're not playing for anything, but Besiktas have been absolutely god-awful in this tournament so far. They don't deserve anything. I'm not giving them anything. I'm going for 2-1 to Lugano. Next up, in Group E, we have Villa, Legia Warsaw, AZ Alkmaar, and Mostar. Now, in this one, with Legia taking on AZ, AZ have to win. Otherwise, they are out of Europe in a group that I think most people expected AZ to get through. I think it's going to be a very interesting game. It's going to be a tight one. And in the end, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, which will see Legia finish runners-up and AZ drop out. That means that Aston Villa will be guaranteed to finish top spot in the group. However, they can't be sure of that going into this game because if Legia do win, then Villa will drop into second if they lose to Mostar. However, I just think Mostar aren't on the same level as Aston Villa, and I'm going to go for a 2-0 win for them. Into Group F, we have Fiorentina, Ferencváros, and Genk. Now, it is still possible for Genk to sneak in. However, it's a tough one between Ferencváros and Fiorentina. Fiorentina, of course, need to win to secure that top spot and avoid a playoff. I am going to back them to do that. However, I do think Ferencváros are more than capable of pulling off a result. That would leave the door open for Genk to swoop in and steal that playoff spot. And I'm going for a 3-0 win for Genk. It's going to be a very, very close one. This is one of the tighter groups that are going to be taking place tonight. And that is what I think is going to happen. Next up, we have Group G. And again, this is a group that is basically completely done. No matter what happens, PAOK will win the group. Frankfurt will go into the playoffs. Aberdeen and Helsinki will be battling it out for third and fourth. However, it would just be for prize money. Nothing really else on the line. Frankfurt, of course, did have that massive win over Bayern Munich at the weekend. But I just think there's no need for them to risk any players. They've got big games coming up against Bayer Leverkusen at the weekend. I'm actually going to go for an Aberdeen win. So there you go, Scotland fans. I am backing one of your teams to win this week. And for PAOK and Helsinki, I'm just going to go for another win for PAOK as they round off the group. And finally, it is Fenerbahce, Ludogorets, Spartak Navara, and Nordsjælland. And this is the tightest group of the lot. Nordsjælland on 10, Ludogorets on 9, Fenerbahce on 9. Fenerbahce, though, have the easiest game. They are against bottom of the league, Spartak. And definitely, like I say, at home, you'd expect Fenerbahce to win. So I'm going to go for a 4-0 win for them. That means they will be on 11. And it means that Nordsjælland will just have to avoid defeat against Ludogorets to get through. And if they win, they will obviously be group winners as well. For Ludogorets, they simply have to win because that will then mean they leapfrog with Fenerbahce into the next round. The only thing working against Ludogorets is the fact that when the game was played in Nordsjælland, it was 7-1. So I am going to go for a Nordsjælland win. I'm going to go for 3-1, which would mean that Nordsjælland go through as group winners. Fenerbahce will go into the playoffs. And that will round off all of my predictions for the Europa League and the Europa Conference League. It's going to be an interesting night. Let me know all of your thoughts down in the comment section. That's probably the most research and planning I've had to put into a single one of these predictions videos. So if you haven't done so already, please do consider dropping a like on it. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.